May 11th meeting of the Harris Township Board of Supervisors to order. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item of business is the approval of 4 sets of minutes. April 13, 2 sets. April 22, 1 set. And April 27th, 1 set. Motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of April 13th, 2026, public hearing, April 13th, 2026, regular meeting, April 22nd, 2026, joint meeting with the Planning Commission, and the April 27th, 2026, special meeting.
Motion second.
Second.
Discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Same sign. Okay, citizen comment, 5 minutes, and no discussion after the 5 minutes. Anyone got?
I'm here with Karen Conroy. We're very interested in looking where we're going with speed humps and traffic calming, both on West Main Academy and looking at the rest of Boalsburg, and particularly downtown. We're a very special community here. We're a growing community. On our end of town, we have 2 developments coming, which means more cars. Cars go past my house at least 35 miles an hour, more like 40 most of the time, and Academy also. We brought this up a couple years ago. We're gathering data. We'd really like to have this as an agenda item so the community you guys can look at it. I know you're getting the data, but if that could possibly happen in the next meeting or the next meeting after that, to discuss that. We feel that it's strongly, urgently needed, and I think it would make a big difference in the safety of our community. We don't want to have our community on West Main is growing with number of kids tremendously. It's really a younger generation that are moving in there. We don't want to have somebody hit by someone not caring about the speed. And with it will go mitigation of the number of cars that come through town. If they have to go over those speed humps and they are thinking they're going to cut through, they're going to avoid it. So we would really like to have you guys consider that in the future and let us know when it's going to be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Karen Conroy, live on Academy Street. I just wanted to back up what Roy said. I came to one of the meetings about 2 years ago and brought this up and just was talking about what a good job I think Boalsburg has done with connecting the neighborhoods and has made it a real walkable community. And it's not like there's so much traffic. It's just every now and then. And it's more than every now and then. Anytime I take my dog for a walk, there is at least one time where I'm afraid, especially on the streets, not just Academy Street. I won't even walk on Main Street with my dog because the cars go too fast. I know some people, I'm not going to say their names because I didn't ask ahead of time, up on the hill are very concerned just because there's no sidewalks. I mean, it's an older village. So if we can get that on the agenda, it would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other? Okay. We've made a slight change in the agenda with respect to public comment after each agenda item. Mark will read the township business piece. Then after that, we will do a public comment of 5 minutes after that. So if you're talking about something later on the agenda, just hold on, we'll get there and you can comment then. Okay? Okay, new agenda items from the board. Anyone have anything they'd like to add of great importance? Not hearing any, okay. Now we'll get into township business. Mark?
Well, first you have the CNET update, and Cindy Hahn is here this evening to give you an update on their activities. And let me get your presentation here shared with everyone.
Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present tonight. Joining me is Harris Township's representative to the CNET board, Alice Schmidbauer, who I know you all know. And he is letting me present tonight since it will be my last time. So, next. So the 2025 highlights. Our small but mighty staff produced 496 programs last year. The closed captioning initiative, which Harris does participate in, is going very smoothly. 15 of our 17 members now have opted into that program. Comcast will be changing the way that CNET goes live from various locations. So that project is underway. They're running all new fiber from our remote origination points back to our control room. This will necessitate the replacement of our broadcast server earlier than expected, which is a large capital expense. But as some of you may know, the member organizations do not contribute anything to our capital expenses. That is provided by the cable company pay fees. So the members do not have to have the burden of that cost on them and their dues. Next. So Harris Township programming in 2025, 12 supervisors meetings, 9 planning commission, 1 Spring Creek watershed meeting. We covered Memorial Day, of course, and there were 4 Department of Meteorology programming, which accounts for 25% of all of those programs. The other 75% is sponsored by Patton Township and by the university. So the total is 27 programs for the year. In addition, there were 25 bulletin board messages. The majority of these are agendas for meetings. Messages are valued at 1/10 of a program, so this is an additional 2.5 programs. So you add that all together and you have a total of 29.5 programs for the year, which is right about 5.5% by all of the programming by all of our members last year. And this sort of graph shows you the last 5 years of programming. Over the last 5 years, that the township has sponsored 5.8% by programming by all of our members. That is important, of course, because CNET's funding formula is determined by a 5-year rolling average that determines your next year's dues. So your programming in 21 through 25 will determine your dues in 27. And this graph shows you all of the members. The last 5 years, Harris Township is right there in the middle. The largest user of our services are of course, has been for a long time State College Borough, with Centre County government in second place. And College and Ferguson Township are sort of duking it out for third place. I have, my bet is on that Ferguson will win, but next. So, how you watch. We stream your meetings live on YouTube at CNET Centre County. On Channel 7, your meetings are cable cast Wednesday at 9 a.m., Thursday at 5 a.m., Saturday at 4 p.m., and Sunday at 8 p.m. The Planning Commission meetings follow that same schedule, but on the third week of the month. All of our programs are online at cnet1.org. They are chaptered by agenda item. The agenda items are clickable, and they stay online for a minimum of 24 months. All of the Harris Township programming is indexed by agenda item and closed caption. So the closed captioning service is an optional service that we offer to the township at the cost of $17 per hour. We are on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire as well. And there are little video tutorials online that walk you through exactly how to find our programs on each of those platforms. So this data shows you essentially how many people on average are watching your meetings online. So for the supervisors, we're seeing an average of 64 views per meeting on cnet1.org and another 76 per meeting on YouTube, for a total of 140 average views per meeting. Planning Commission is not on YouTube, so Planning Commission, we're seeing just the 54 views per meeting on average. Keep in mind that this is only online. It's not on cable. Comcast will not provide that information to us. They consider that proprietary. So the only data I can ever get for you is the online views. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about the candidate interviews, because I think that this is a very important part of CNET's mission, and I'm very proud of what we do for the candidate interviews. We produce them every year for the primary and general election. We send invitations to federal, state, and county office candidates, mayors, boards, and councils of CNET member municipalities and school districts. They are conducted by local journalists, most recently Ann Danahy of WPSU and Jeff Rushton of statecollege.com, and they're on cnet1.org as well as on our cable channels. And that is all I have for you tonight.
Historically, how did it come about that Pat sponsored meteorology versus all of the municipalities?
Yep. Well, that really predates me. So for a long time, I'm assuming that the meteorology students went out and they asked all of the municipalities, and Patton and Harris said yes. And so there was 1 year where I think the borough participated in assisting for that funding as well. You know, a lot of people, people are in favor of the funding and the support for the students. There are those who think that the university should shoulder all of the expense without the municipal support. So it goes both ways.
Every year the fee would spread the cost out over 5 of us, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Has that been approached recently?
Well, every year the students and their advisors determine who they're going to ask. And you know, you'll see them in September, October, they'll make their rounds. So they are encouraged to ask as many municipal members as possible.
I remember them coming, maybe not the last couple of years, but they've been here, so. Questions? Anyone have a question?
I got one question. No, what's going on with the new cable place, the new guys in town? Chantel or whatever, have they started, hooking people up, or where are we at on that? Does anybody know?
My understanding, there have been some residents that have been able to get connected and are using them. I don't know where they're at in terms of that rollout, but they
Well,
are.
do you see, I know they're supposed to pay so much per.
Right. So right now, Chantel, for the last 3 years, has been paying a flat fee based upon population. So I think for Harris Township, the amount is $2,000. So the townships forward that money to us. Now, very shortly, it's going to, they've been doing this for like 3 years. It is going to revert to a per subscriber pay fee. But they have to have customers to make that work. So as they gain more and more customers, it is likely that they will no longer pay the flat fee, but it'll be based on a per subscriber pass-through, just like Comcast.
Comcast schedule is 1/2 of 1% of the base package?
Well, it's about 32 cents per subscriber per month.
Bigger chunk of money.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question about your captioning service and how that works. Is it an AI caption service at this point? Is it a live caption service, or is it post-caption?
Yeah, it's an AI service provided by our server manufacturer, which is Telview. So it makes it very easy. It is AI. We are permitted to put names in to assist the AI to learn the names. So in theory, it's supposed to get better and better with time. But it is AI-based, which is why it is only $17 per hour. Yeah.
We have the same thing at WPSU with EEG.
Yeah.
I was just curious. It sounds like you've done the same thing.
Yep.
It's a treat. It's very, very effective.
Good.
Anyone in the group want to ask a question? I assume you all see that viewers regularly? I don't see any heads. Pam is.
Got some
Okay.
nodding heads.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your years of service.
Yes, thank you, Cindy.
Thank you for everything you've done for the area with public television.
Yes.
And hope you and Don enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to PennDOT Bridge Preservation. Mark?
Pennsylvania Department of Transportation proposes to perform bridge preservation work to the structure on State Route 322 that carries traffic over State Route 45. Roadway work will consist of paving the roadway 100 feet at each end of the structure. A high friction surface treatment will be applied for approximately 400 feet before and 1,900 feet after the structure. Centerline delineators will also be replaced. This project is tentatively scheduled to be let in September 2026. So PennDOT requested that to increase public involvement and awareness of their projects, that we place this information on an agenda, and that any comments that are received from the public be provided to them. So this is not an action item. It's simply informational, but if there's any public comment on this item, I will be sure to forward it on to PennDOT.
Anyone have questions and comments about the bridge closure, the road closure, and how long it's going to last, and how inconvenient it's going to be, and nothing. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Okay, Bowl Avenue pedestrian crossing, Bowl Avenue needs study. Mark, you want to read? Then we'll pick up.
Absolutely. In 2024, the township received an automated red light enforcement grant for the construction of a pedestrian crossing on Bowl Avenue at the intersection of Old Bullsburg Road and the Pennsylvania Military Museum. In addition to the proposed crossing, the township has also been working on a needs study for the Bowl Avenue corridor. The needs study includes several projects along the corridor that would improve safety and access for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians. Our traffic engineer, Rob Watts, is here this evening to provide an update on these two initiatives.
Okay, public comment. Anyone who wishes to comment on what Mark has shared? You're on, Mark. You're on.
Hey, Rob Watts with McCormick Taylor, here to discuss two projects we've been working with the township on, some a little bit longer than others. We'll start with the one that's kind of hot off the presses. We learned today, Mark and I learned today, for the crossing, the new signal at the crossing there at the Military Museum. What's going in is what we call a rapid flashing beacon, a new crosswalk, and then there'll be lighting and curb ramps on either side there to facilitate crossings at the location where had the fatality a few years ago. That's what the Arley grant funds. Now, earlier today, we heard from a Neil Brophy, who's with the governor's office in Pennsylvania, that they're progressing the right-of-way plan for this signal. We need an area where we can put the signal equipment on the Military Museum side. And PHMC, which is the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, needs to approve that. Neil did a great job in kind of negotiating that. PHMC isn't going to require any money. They're going to sign the MOU that says you can locate there. But we've had to go through quite a process. Right-of-way plans in Pennsylvania are governed, the process you go through is really governed by what kind of money you get. You get it through the tip, you get it through liquid fuels, you get it through more, I would say, money that come through the gas tax. Follows one process. This Arley grant program comes from automated red light enforcement. And that's basically fines that people pay when they run red lights. And that funding stream has its own little quirks. So we've been working with the governor's office to try to get through that, and that has admittedly held up this project quite a bit. The design is virtually done. We just simply needed to get through the right-of-way, and Neil has progressed that MOU with PHMC, and we should be receiving that back from them very soon. He says it needs to go to the Office of General Counsel. Usually that comes back in about 10 business days, and after that it needs to go to the Office of the Comptroller. Welcome to working with the Pennsylvania bureaucracy. But that will get us the right-of-way plan we need to locate this equipment. And then from there it's a matter of design with PennDOT, and then we hope to put this in the hands of a contractor so that they can order their signal poles and then put them in early next year.
In 2026?
It'll be in 2027. It's about 6 months to order signal poles and get them fabricated. And that's the big lead time for a contractor. So if we can get somebody under contract toward the end of summer, give them that 6 months, those poles would arrive in February. A contractor could be working on what we call the groundwork, lay the foundations, put in everything they need, and then in the wintertime, they can actually do the erection of the poles and the signals. So you'd have those up and running by spring next year.
You're overly optimistic.
I think we're through the hard part. I think we're through the hardest part right now.
Good.
Any questions on the crossing and where we stand with that one right now? Of course, the crossing is part of a bigger need study that the township was working on before that crossing even came up. It was called the road diet previously. We kind of morphed that after we had our public meeting into the needs study to accommodate some of the comments that came from the community and came from PennDOT so we could address their concerns. That has been sitting with PennDOT quite a lot lately because they're progressing this other big project they got out the valley here, and there's a place there on Earlestown Road where the two projects really come together. And I understand there have been some meetings with the Liberty Hill community and other concerned citizens along Earlestown Road who are not liking some of what the plans are showing them in terms of the number of lanes that they would see on Earlestown Road. It's proposed to be widened, and new ideas are coming out. Eric Merniak, who is, I guess he is the project manager for the project now, correct? He has met with, I think you had a meeting not too long ago, and the idea of a roundabout was kind of rolled out there, and that received some pretty good returns. So melding that with what's happening with the needs study is something that I believe we're going to be coordinating more on here very, very soon. So that is one reason why the needs study has not really gone as fast either. It's been a little bit slow rolled, but that's, again, because they don't want to get out ahead of the bigger project and cause more headaches for anybody.
Questions of my colleagues?
No, I'm happy to see the needs study still getting some air. I think it is a really positive step forward for Bull Avenue going through the middle of town, given the needs of the community, the walkability, the community connections. So just excited that that's not dead.
Certainly not. Just a little bit behind some other things. I'm trying not to muddy the water with some of the other things you had going on, and maybe even bigger concerns with the State College Area Connector project.
Yeah, I think it dovetails really well with the connector project.
I think it will. Once we work out this last little thing, we gotta make happen.
The
But
connection up there is very complex.
I actually am very supportive of the roundabout. I think it's an excellent idea. It actually requires us to modify our concept for the needs study, but I think it's in a good way.
I think
It's just a little bit of a compromise we'll have to deal with when it comes down to.
Right, we'll go on there.
No, go ahead. You guys have
I have a comment.
Mhm.
I made the comment that there are a lot of people, I've heard nothing but awful things about roundabouts in this area. I like roundabouts. Awful things about nobody wants a roundabout, until they saw there's 5 lanes. And all of a sudden, like, oh, look at this, we can just put this round. I feel played. I think it's a great idea, but it was just really interesting that everybody's okay with the roundabout now.
Mm-hmm. It's a solution, and until you get to that, I come from Juniata County, and if you know Juniata County, it is lost back in the 1950s in many ways. But they got a roundabout proposed on one of their projects, and everybody said, "Oh, people are going to die. It's going to be terrible." Put it in, and now people love it. People love it there. So it's something you get used to. It is a little different, but they're getting more common, and they just have far better safety experience than traffic signals or even stop control intersections. So they really are a good thing once we get used to them.
The only roundabout I have had problems with is going down to Ocean City, New Jersey. That one's tough.
Between that one and the one in Rehoboth Beach, for those of you who go to Rehoboth.
Nigel? Okay.
Oh, I did have something. I thought you were skipping. The only thing I will say is I did talk to Mr. Merniak and a few others up at the thing, and I reminded them if they go with the traffic circle on 2 lanes, that all the roads that feed this out here are 2 lanes. So why do we need 4? So I reminded them of that.
I always go back there. Here, I'll make a comment. I always go back there because right now we have a lot of traffic going through, and I just don't know what's going to happen when this road comes through. And I would hesitate until we know what's going to happen to do things to Bull Avenue. That I just don't know how that would work until we know what's going to happen.
Right. I think PennDOT would agree with that. That's one of the reasons why they've been slow to move on approving some of the ideas we've been throwing their way. So I think you're going to see less traffic in the end on Bowl Avenue just because you have additional ramps. But that's just my guess, and it's anybody's guess.
But there's more people going out, because I live in Willowbrook.
Mm-hmm.
There's more people going out 45 now. It's causing more dangers on 45.
Yeah.
And you can tell at certain times when I'm trying to get out of the neighborhood, there is much more traffic on 45. So you're looking at traffic coming through Bollesburg and going up 45 also. But there's not as much traffic coming off the bypass and making the left on 45. It comes up more from Bowl Avenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way the connection happens out there near the tech park, okay, that area, I think that will determine a lot of how traffic goes out there. Much more of a local connection on that end of things, whereas people can come right off of 322 right down Bowl Avenue today. That seems to be the main spot. But like you said, we do have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So that's the prudent thing to do.
Good, thanks, Rob.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, future growth in Harris Township, Art and Pam is coming up, so.
So
Go ahead, Mark.
real quick, Pam is here this evening, Pam Adams from Center Regional Planning Agency, to go over a little bit of what was discussed at your joint meeting back on April 22nd with the Planning Commission regarding future growth areas. So I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation that Pam put together, and I could go from there. So one moment here to get that started, Pam.
Yeah, so while Mark brings that up, basically we're going to do a bit of a recap from the open house, what we heard, and the work session that we had. And then at the June meeting, what we learned from tonight, take some information back from you, we'll go to the Planning Commission to continue to work on this future land use map, all right? So we'll start with the recap, and tonight what I'll be talking about, if you go to the next slide, is basically for the audience, we're going to give a quick comprehensive plan update, so we lay a little bit of the foundation. We'll talk about what we're hoping to accomplish at this meeting, which is basically review a bit of the fact sheet that's in your packet and what that means when we talk about growth, as well as the open house results. And if you're interested in growing, we want to talk about a criteria framework on if we're going to grow, what are your priorities, some characteristics. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll review those 4 growth areas that we kind of had some discussion on consensus, but we want to make sure that that's really where you want PC to evaluate. So what is a comprehensive plan? You've heard this before, but again, for folks in the audience, just so everybody understands, a comprehensive plan is a long-range policy planning document, right? It's guiding future development and growth. It is required by the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code, so every 10 years we look to see if it needs to be updated, and that was decided in 2023. It needs to be updated. So this is a vision for what the next 10 to 20 years of your community, our community, will be. The comprehensive plan is a center region comprehensive plan. We do it with the 6 municipalities, so it allows for shared land uses. So that's an important piece so that you don't have to accommodate all of the required land uses. And we're going to tighten that up, and there'll be more on that coming. And the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, they're kind of connected pieces. They're not your zoning ordinance. They don't have the details on setbacks and all that. That's up to you guys. So it's more high-level, visionary type of document. So where we are, we're about right in the middle at the options. We've spent 2 years gathering community input. We've defined the values and visions. The big ideas are the themes of what the community wants. Those have all been defined. At the open house, if you recall, there were boards for the big ideas. We've now drafted goals, and we're trying to get community input on what are the priority goals for each community, because what Harris Township residents want could be different from the borough and Patton Township. We'll be working through those, identifying strategies on how we're going to meet those goals, with the idea of getting draft documents by the end of the year so that adoption can happen in early 2027. For tonight, we are going to review the Harris Township fact sheet that was in your packet. We'll go through that so everybody in the audience can see that also. Again, trying to help lay the groundwork for some growth discussions so that you can start thinking about what, if, where type of growth you think is needed. We will review some criteria considerations so that you can help prioritize what type of growth you may be interested in and what characteristics you're looking for if you decide to grow. And then lastly, we'll review those growth areas before we send them to Planning Commission to get your final okay that that's what we should be looking at, or you can take some off the list. So first up is the fact sheet. So we'll sort of break this down so everybody in the audience can see also. So basically, we looked at the forecast of projections for Harris Township. This is just for Harris Township. And in Harris Township, it's projected that you'll grow about 200 people. You'll not grow people, but you'll be seeing another 200 people come into your community in the next 10 years and then 10 years beyond. So 425 roughly is the projection, right? We don't know, but that's what's projected. And then if you look at your household size, that helps us determine the number of houses that you need. So basically for the next 20 years, you should be getting another 175 houses in Harris Township. So that's what is needed. What you have available, we went back and talked with Mark and Jenna, went through the data. Within the regional growth boundary, which is the RGB, you have 216 units that are approved, already ready to go. They're not constructed yet, but that's capacity that you have. We don't know that they'll all be built in 10 years or 20 years, but you have that approved. And then in addition to that, some of the vacant properties and parcels that are in Harris Township, you have roughly 145 units. It could be more based on your zoning. You allow for greater density, but what we're seeing as far as what's really happening in the development world, it's 145. So, yeah.
Like if you look at Harris Township, you're saying our household size is 2.44 people per house. But I have a question of, we have many retirees' homes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we, does that take it into account when, because I think that if we had less retiree homes,
Right.
then things
It does
would change dramatically. And so if we build retirees versus non-retiree homes, a lot of these numbers are going to be skewed, correct?
I don't know about skewed, but that is
change.
based, yes. If you're seeing a greater influx in
We
the
will
coming
have
years,
less housing
Two.
units needed if we are focusing more towards families, young families.
right?
We will have a lot less housing units needed because we may have 4 people per house or 5 people per house.
Yeah, if we look across the region, 2.5, like that's a good number because there's always a balance. So it's rare for it to be 4 in our community.
So if we look outside our
But
community,
I know that most houses.
do you have trends from outside, like equivalent communities?
Yeah, we could look to see where,
And what do you
but
suppose this community's more
2.5
like?
is a good national average, I'd have
Okay.
to say. I don't
Well,
think
it's
we're
a
that far
national
off.
average, okay.
Right. I don't think we're that far off in respect to, there are variations within each township. So that's definitely, but I don't think it's, you're 2.4 and the average is 4.
Okay.
But I'll confirm that.
But basically 2.5 would be a good
Right.
average to look at.
Yep.
You're going back.
All right. So residential units, we talked about the 216 units that are approved, the 145 that are on vacant parcels. So you have over 350 units potential. On the non-residential side, the commercial industrial side, you have 59,000 square feet of non-residential. So that, I'll explain what that could be, but it is the smallest in the center region of the center region municipalities of what you have available. So on the next slide, this is where we talk about, do you need to grow, right? So if you recall, we needed 175 units. You have the capacity for 350 housing units based on projections. So for the residential side, and I see there's a typo in that capacity, you don't need to grow. You don't need to think about more housing. Now, again, we don't know if all of those 350 will get built, when they will get built. So you certainly can consider, if they aren't going to materialize, do you want to think about some areas for residential growth? That's a question for you. On the non-residential side, basically that 59,000 square foot equates to about 30,000, two spaces of about 30,000, right? So that, from the CBICC for sensor technology and some of the things we've been hearing from realtors, is that there is a need and interest in this community for light and medium-sized industrial, sort of research labs, not heavy manufacturing. And so you can have that, but if you're really trying to look at growing some of the light industrial employment mixed-use development, you might want to consider targeting a growth area for that type of non-residential facility, because you're on the low end, you have some, but that's, if you're interested, you could have more. So that's the fact sheet that helps lay a little bit of the foundation for you as far as where, or do you need to grow, do you want to grow? Now, as far as the open house, as I indicated, we had boards set up so that there were the big ideas, 5 different big ideas with draft goals. And community members were asked to prioritize their top 3. So for the first one, fostering housing variety, again, I'm not going to read each of the 5 goals that were listed there, but if you click the button, the ones that rise to the top is that residents want a broader mix of housing options, with a strong emphasis on affordability and long-term occupancy. So some of the comments that we received, and this will probably sound familiar to you, is that there's concern about homes being used for seasonal or event-based occupancy. They would prefer to have it for local workforce. So I think that resonates with what you've heard before as you talk about short-term rentals. But that's fostering housing variety, preserve and maintain, and expand housing options. For the next big idea, we have connecting beyond cars. And for residents, they clearly prioritize safe, walkable, and bikeable infrastructure. You can see the biggest one was develop complete bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and then also reinforce a safe and connected multimodal network. So feedback, again, from the community was they highlighted concerns about speeding, traffic safety, and cut-through traffic, along with interest in more frequent and accessible transit service. So overall, the focus is on creating a safer, more balanced transportation system that works for everyday users, not just automobiles.
Can I ask a question? Don't get me wrong, I'm for all this too. But my question is there any data about how many people and how many bikes actually use these paths? Because
It's a great question, and they're currently, MPO is doing a LTAP. They got a little mini grant, if you want to call it, where they've borrowed some counters. They're going to do a couple days worth of them. In the budget cycle this year, you're going to see a request from MPO to spend money to buy 6 of our own counters for a 5-year period with an app so that we can do data. So currently there is not good data. We're hoping to do a little sampling and then be able to show that sampling as a benefit for why we should have these counters, because we agree.
When I've gone walk paths and everything, I've not seen many people walking
Yep.
or riding, and it could be my timing, it could be anything like that.
Yep.
But
No,
I just like, before we spend township money on all this, I would really like to know that there's, I think it's a great thing. Maybe I won't use it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'd like to know. The
Right.
real
People are
stuff.
interested, but are they actually doing it, and is it reducing congestion and traffic? Again, connecting those pieces are hard, but at least we can start collecting the data on if and where
even
the
just
big
healthy
uses
walking,
are.
you
Yep.
know? It's
Yeah.
like-
It will do pedestrian and bicycles
Yeah.
and e-bikes.
That'd be great to have that kind of information to be able to make a solid
Yep,
choice.
we'll remember that during budget season. We'll be
Yeah.
talking about that, but we're just putting those numbers together. But we agreed that it would be helpful to have the data. So then the third big idea is partnering for a thriving future. And in this case, we see that the strongest signal is a desire to maintain and enhance over-livability by having the center region as a vibrant, livable place to live, work, and grow. That was the number one, with quality development and coordinated growth. So basically what the residents are saying is, like, they are more interested in how development occurs is more important than how quickly it occurs, right? They're concerned. They want to see that it's growing. They want to see some growth, but they want to make sure it aligns with environmental protections and broader community values. So they're supportive of growth if you do it right. All right, the fourth big idea is advancing purposeful community design. And what they've selected here as their clear preference is reinvesting in and improving existing places, right? So repurpose and revitalize existing infrastructure, grow within before you grow outside. And they are interested and they have support for creating well-designed community hubs. So try to make things like downtown Boalsburg, try to think about where people are going to be going. Feedback there suggests a desire for context-sensitive, environmentally cautious design that strengthens existing community character rather than the large-scale transformation, right? They want to keep Harris Township. And then the last one is cultivating environmental stewardship was the fifth big idea. And in this case, there is a real interest in balancing growth with conservation and protecting our water resources, which we have heard over and over again also. So a big emphasis on habitat protection, limiting overdevelopment, and managing access to the natural areas. Basically, they want the environmental considerations to be integrated into all planning and decisions that you make, not something that's a separate issue. So that's what we heard from the public open house. And that gives you, again, information, sort of, you have some data that supports, do you need to grow, what your capacity is, and then what you're hearing from your community. So on the next slide, if you choose, and when I'm done here, we'll have some conversation, if you choose and you want the Planning Commission to evaluate these growth areas, so if you direct them to study that growth, we are making a suggestion that you identify sort of this framework for suitability. And we're looking at minimum eligibility criteria, and these are kind of the hard constraints that disqualify land, and then some preferred characteristics. So for example, for the minimum eligibility criteria, they should be familiar to you. You don't want to build where there's steep slopes. You want to look at what your soils are. You want to not be building in floodplains and wetlands, right? So these are criteria that you can consider, that these can take areas off the list, right? So these are maybe things that you're familiar with. Planning Commission certainly looks at them regularly. But what we'd also want feedback on is preferred characteristics. If Planning Commission is going to be looking at some growth areas, are any of these things that resonate strongly with you, as far as, are you concerned if it's septic suitable, or is it more important that it's closer to the sewer and water infrastructure as is? And these aren't either or questions, but it's kind of like, which ones, if you had to say, are important to you to consider for growth, should Planning Commission know some of your priorities? Is it important to look, when you're looking at growth, road access and traffic impact? Does the parcel size and configuration matter to you at all? If you're going to grow, should it be for purposes that help the region and the area, because your residents are also looking for housing of affordability, or do you want to preserve for environmental stewardship, right? Like, you got to think about what it is are your preferred characteristics for why you want to grow. Because we've kind of explained you don't necessarily have a strong need, but you could direct it in certain areas. And then we also talked about Shingletown at the last meeting, about someday in the future, they are going to have some potential septic failures. So is that an area that you want to look for growth? Because at some point, they're going to probably need to be connected to sewer. Again, that is not an immediate thing. That is going to be starting the conversation over these next 5 to 10 years for planning for these, because we see it throughout the region. There's several areas. So we're going to talk about these, but let's keep going so that you sort of see the whole thing, and then we can come back to them. So there's 4 areas from our meeting that we summarized as far as areas that we should study further. This is Kaywood, and if you recall, that black line is the regional growth boundary sewer service area, and most of Kaywood has sewer. The top 3 in green are ones that we identified as part of kind of the housekeeping, that they have septic. Someday they may want to have sewer, and they're in the same neighborhood with other people that have sewer. Realtors have asked, community members are like, why are they not in the regional growth boundary? So we could, if there's consensus, and at the meeting last time there was consensus, that we should change the regional growth boundary to include those for future. No, just the bottom right here. The green. The green is where there was consensus that is a little cleanup we could do, housekeeping. The question tonight is, the red was then said, well, maybe we should study the whole area. And so the question is, do you think that would be an area to explore for PC to look to see if that makes sense? There could be, again, we have to talk about the characteristics. So let me go through all 4 of them so you get those first, and then we'll go back to the characteristics, and then you can decide about these. All right, so that's the first one. So this area is at the top of Tory Lane. And if you recall, what's that blue area?
This here
Yeah.
is where the water tank is.
Yeah, the water tank. Okay. Just so you have a frame of reference. That green triangle up there, again, is another one of these housekeeping ones. There's 2 homes there. They have septic. There's not known failures, but at some point they will run out of space. So cleaning that up, there was consensus that we should just fix that regional growth boundary to include those parcels, because the light brown is part of that other parcel up there, or the dark brown, I guess I should say. So that's the green. The question for you tonight is the red was also brought up as an area to explore. And if you recall, this has been mentioned or brought up before by Mr. Songer at board meetings and PCs, and I think you've reviewed this, but that's a second one. So that's number 2. The third property that you can decide if we should explore is the one on the left is going out 322 towards Tussey. Bear Meadows is right next to it. So before you turn up to go up to Tussey, this property is vacant right here. And so the question is that an area that would make sense for some growth? And would you like Planning Commission to explore that? And recognizing that the bottom half of that will probably not be eligible for full build out because of there's a stream through there, slopes, so it's not going to be the whole property, but some of it. And then the fourth one is going out 45, coming out of town towards Shingletown, and there's Hessfield. The 2 properties between the Fairfield development and Hessfield were also identified as potential areas for growth. So the questions for tonight. Basically, Harris Township has sufficient residential capacity, right? So we've laid that groundwork out there within the existing regional growth boundary. But we don't know if all 350 units will be approved or not, and you have to let us know if you would like to see some future growth areas directed for residential in case that doesn't, the ones we've identified don't materialize. When will they be built? We don't know. So you can let us know if you think some growth should occur for housing. You want to identify areas. And if so, then we want to talk about the suitability criteria. so that you can help direct Planning Commission. Then the second question is, are you interested in exploring a small targeted regional growth boundary expansion dedicated to light industrial flex usage to establish an economic development region, right? So you have some industrial, you don't have much capacity left. Are you interested in trying to attract and have some of that light industrial? That's the questions and some food for thought and discussion for tonight.
Is the given in all of this the interest of the current landowner even to think about selling? If in those 4 scenarios, the current owners of those four different people, what happens if they don't show any interest in selling and want to continue in the Linden Hall area?
Right.
That's agricultural.
Right.
But interesting, there are also 5 parcels for sale on the Linden Hall area.
Yes. So there could be other areas that you want PC to look at for growth. Yes, we do not know what the status of and when and if those landowners would be interested in selling. So it's basically trying to start having some of that conversation, just like the 175 units that are available for capacity. We don't know. They're vacant right now. The landowners might not be willing to interested in moving on them at all. So we don't know what the landowner is going to do.
And you have one other slide that has the green on the right-hand side. Everything below that is sewer driven, either on site or UAJ.
So, yeah,
can you get back to that slide?
the suitability characteristics. This one.
Right there, yeah. All of those relate to sewer. Perk suitability, proximity to sewer, road access traffic. You get public sewer, you're going to get more traffic. Parcel size, the smaller the parcel, the more you need public sewer. The larger size, because we need 2 drain fields and separation of 100 feet from a wellhead, you're putting constraint on that one already. Potential future on septic is.
Yep, sewer is a driver.
Sewer is a driver in all this.
Yes, right. And so the question is, are any of those a higher priority, or are there other characteristics? If you want to see growth, why do you want to see growth, right? Like, what is it going to be solving? What are the purposes behind the growth? Is it to help with housing? Is it to prevent or spread out traffic?
Yeah, I get it. You know, if you go back to, we just did these nice little surveys here, and from what I took away from them, the majority of the people want it to stay the way it is.
Yep.
You know, we don't want to see, you know, large developments going in. We like the community the way it is now. So I'm comfortable with the 350 potential, or whatever comes out of that. I think let the market take care of whether they get built or not, instead of trying to shoehorn them in everywhere else. That being said, I also think as prudent decisions, and I'm looking more towards Shingletown. Okay, if we have these areas that we know sooner or later are going to fail sewer, and we all know the process when you have to expand the sewer, how long it takes. If we can right now clean a lot of that up, I would sooner do the cleanup like we talked about, and just square those things off so we don't have to come back in another 5-10 years and say, okay, we have to do a study to see if we can get this guy sore or that one on sore, just like we're doing right now with Touchy Mountain. Same process. I would sooner clean the map up.
Yep.
I don't think we need to create a lot of places to add developments. I think we're kind of getting developed out, and I think most people are kind of comfortable with that in the area. You can see it on the public meetings and stuff. So I would be more interested in the Planning Commission looking at our cleanups and studying to see if we get that all cleaned up, marking or something.
I was just gonna recommend, Mr. Chair, that you may wanna open it for public
Yeah,
comment
that's
soon,
what
since
we're-
you're getting a lot of discussion going, and that way
You're ready? You okay with that?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
no.
Anybody? Oh, remember, you don't get a vote.
Well, I should have worn my shirt. Bud Graham, Harris Township. I would caution you on this regional growth boundary. Yes, proceed slowly. I like maybe cleaning up some things that were very close there. But if you have 4 spots, I can almost guarantee you within 5 years you're going to have 4 major developments. It's going to be Works homes. It's going to be S&A homes. Is that what we're looking for? Or we want to grow slowly and grow efficiently? That's the only concern I would have in changing the regional growth boundary. It is, especially above Academy Street up there. That open land up there, it's perfect open space before we hit the mountain. It's wild wilderness area. It's it's wonderful. If we can keep that as long as we can, that's what we need to look at, that type of thing. That's the only comment I have. Just be careful when you're expanding your regional growth boundary, and do it judiciously. Clean up a few things. Maybe we do need it, but let's be careful with that. I don't know how we're going to get how many more houses in Harris Township, but that's where they're at. But there's someplace. That's all I want to call it.
Interesting, the township owns a piece of property above the end of Academy that we were
Well, yeah, we got that.
deeded or somehow blessed with.
We're gifted.
They're gifted. Yeah, so. Useless.
Just be careful.
Yeah.
A regional growth boundary is typical.
Anyone else? Rod, you're a traffic man. He's contemplating.
He lives in East Virginia, they don't do anything.
No, I tend to agree. If you can fulfill an infill, I'm sorry. Rob Watts, I'm not from Harris Township. I'm from your neighbor, College Township. But no, I tend to agree with Bud in the regard of what you heard your residents give you was a sort of maintain, grow in a very sustainable kind of way. You have a lot of opportunities for infill, and many of those opportunities offer you the chance to diversify your housing stock. I agree. I've seen it all over the center region because I work with Ferguson Township, Patton Township, Walker Township, Potter Township, and you open up those tracts and you will probably get more of the tract housing, townhomes and whatnot, which will diversify your housing stock. But I think you want to focus it maybe in the places that you are right now. But I tend to agree with the build where you are rather than opening up new space if you don't have the need. And I think the data is kind of showing that right now. So
Interesting. The farming market is going to drive some of this with respect to what a commodity is sold for, what fertilizer is sold for. The higher the price, the more those farmers are going to think about liquidating the asset because you can't afford to farm, which is a very sad comment about farming.
And by the way, of the 4 areas you had up there, the one that I don't like to clean up is the one from Hessfield up to Fairfield. That piece of ground right there. We put sewer in there, and Bud's right. We'll have 2 S&A houses in there, or housing developments that make your eyes spin. So that I'm not for putting sewer in there. Getting it to Hessfield, yes, but not to there. And I would trade that for Shingletown, because I know Shingletown's going to be in need, and nobody's going to develop a lot of Shingletown. It's pretty much already where it's going to be.
I don't think they want sewer.
Yeah, probably not. But I'm just saying that we may have to run it there anyway.
And sewing the area from the Water Authority on Branch Road over to 45, which the road name is Woodside, yeah. Those 3 or 4 houses don't have sewer, but across the street you put sewer in there. So that's again another farmer issue with respect to how profitable farming is.
Just one question to get up again. One question. You say does the Harris Township need the township need or want growth? You suggested that we should say we need growth or don't need growth. Is that the township's responsibility?
So the question is, am I trying to say you need or want growth? I'm asking you. I've presented the data, and again, we did the joint session. We talked about where growth should be. You were the first joint meeting that we had, and we thank you for letting us play around with it. We've learned that it's probably better to have figured some of this out before then so that we could give you that. But the time period came quickly, and we appreciate it. But we want you to know that you have capacity. What your residents say is they go slow and grow the right way, the Harris Township way. So I'm not trying to say that you should be looking for growth. I just want you to think about it, knowing that we're going to be doing another comprehensive plan. You know, like you have capacity for certainly 10 years, 20 years, according to this. What things will be like and where things are going to change, nobody knows. But that's where just want to make sure that you understand the data shows you've got the housing units. You could look at some industrial space if you want, but that's your decision. And again, we're doing this regionally. So the community in whole from the center region, we hear save and preserve our rural community, keep density within. So
the 50,000 square foot industrial is really interesting because it's not even 2 acres.
Right.
The new buildings on Discovery toward the far end are probably 1.5 acres.
Right.
So you're limiting the size of what could be built simply by taking up 1 acre is 43,580 square feet.
Right. You're small.
Can't get much in.
Right. These are small.
I have a procedural question. Where do we go from here? I mean, do we, from what we said tonight, will you come back with, like, say, here's the map of what you said?
Yeah.
Or do we create it and give it to you?
So basically, what I'm hearing is clean up, but not growth. I'm looking for some head shakes so that you can discuss that. But if that's the case, then what we will do is look at the map, present it to the Planning Commission as there's nothing that needs to be studied. It's these cleanups, unless there's some questions there. We'll have information prepared, and then they will bring it. We can bring it back to you and says this is your future land use map with the minor cleanup adjustments.
I think there's some parcels within the village area that we're talked about on this end of the table. That could be a 1 or 2 home kind of.
So, are you talking about?
When we did the session,
Yeah. So
within the village area, like on the hill area.
Oh, well,
They're in the growth boundary. Right?
Yes. If they're already within the growth boundary,
No.
we will take if there were some suggestions or changes within. But I don't think there was a lot of changes that you were looking at. Because, again, it's this upper level. You still have a lot of ability to do your zoning and make adjustments within those. Within.
I have a question. When we talk about the goal prioritization for partnering for a thriving future and some of this stuff that we've talked about, especially when you look up here and say consistency with community priorities, housing affordability, especially. I have a lot of problems like when we start discussing this because it was just several months ago when we had people coming here and screaming about the density of a neighborhood. And so for me, this whole thing has to start with what we think of the density of our communities first. And we need to think about all this stuff before we talk about even a growth map and where we want to grow. We need to talk about what we are expecting to have, how many people we're expecting to have. And I keep always saying about, like, I grew up in Bluebell. Their density is 1 acre. It's always been 1 acre. They want nothing more than 1 acre. They kept it very, very open, and that's what they wanted for every community. And they weren't going to do anything but that. And they kept it exactly the way they wanted it. But I feel like, we were expecting with townhomes and everything, if you do anything like that, you've got the same problem of people buying it for. So we certainly don't want to do that. But where does that density, where does that fit? And where does that fit our population? And there seems to be nobody comes in until they complain.
Right.
So how do you get information, extract information from people when all they want to do is after the fact
Right, and nobody wants it in their backyard. So it is a tricky thing. And again, it was interesting because Harris Township wasn't, the community members, which makes sense, people that are necessarily coming to your open house aren't thinking that we need to do more education for people. But we have to be able to look at housing density and neighborhood feel, and change is hard. And so it isn't, but trying to make it so it's not scary. So renderings, so people can see what it can look like, and think about it as families are, getting to know your neighbors. And like, we used to build houses much closer to each other. And yes, when people moved into a certain community and development and they have their acre lots, that's what they want. So you can't necessarily put a bunch of quads right next to it because it's a total mismatch of character. But can you start transitioning from homes to a little tighter lots? People just, it's a tough thing, and it's not going to be for everybody, but housing variety is one thing I hear. I hear from people that live out in West Ferguson or Half Moon and would like to be closer to town, and they don't want to live in a townhouse. They want to live in their own little single family, but it doesn't need to be on a full acre anymore, right? So it's that kind of idea, like a single family home that's a community, and you have some of them in Rocky Ridge, right? Those are huge homes that are close to each other, but there can be adjustments, and until people never want what they know in their backyard to change.
I think, to Tracy, your point, to answer a question, partly what you're talking about size of lots and everything, has to do with our ordinances and zoning. And I believe right now we have one of the jobs of planning commissions, they are looking at our R1s and our different zonings because we did ag in those, and now we're looking at, and I know that's on their work list. I don't know how far along they are, but I know that's on the work list, and that's really where that's going to get hashed out.
They have actually held off on working on any further revisions to the residential districts in hopes of getting more feedback from the board on what you would want to see through the comp plan process. If there's areas you want to see zoning changes where you want more density, it made sense to wait to make the residential changes. Normally your zoning ordinance will reflect what your comprehensive plan says. So they were actually waiting until this process was done before they jumped back into looking at those residential districts.
I don't understand how you turn around. One leads into the other. It all goes hand in hand. So, but deciding one before you decide another, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
because
you have a vision.
We've already had some feedback from the public. And I think that I don't understand how we're supposed to get this information, especially about the density of neighborhoods and how people feel about this, before we sit there and start talking about, housing affordability and this and that. That just really bothered me. That whole thing really bothered me when people came and they said, and they were okay, the neighborhood going in, but the density is what they questioned. And now I have questions about the density and what we should have. I certainly don't want certain things to happen, but I don't, and I guess maybe, we gave a waiver for, Liberty Hill, we gave a waiver for Springfield Commons. If we decide that we want less density, can't we have a waiver for more density when we find it's fitting what we have? That's my biggest problem. Then when we talk about the growth area, now we talk about the growth area. What are we going to put in there, and are we going to be happy with how that happens? So why would I want to look at a growth area until I figure out what would be best for the community and what does the community want? And if you're giving a waiver over here, why wouldn't you keep your density wide and then give the waiver?
I will say, at least for the planning commission, I know what they were hoping for, and I'm probably going to butcher your different categories of residential, but I know that your residential categories are much more broad now than what the old comprehensive plan said.
There was only one.
Residential, and that was it. There was no definition of what that meant. Now there's ranges, so if the board is saying, look, we don't like this area being anything but low-density residential, I don't know what that corresponds to as far as lot sizes go, that's something then the commission can go back and make changes to the zoning ordinance to reflect what the board's interests are. Likewise, if there's an area you say medium-density residential, then they know to maybe make a different district in that area. They just didn't want to get ahead of it by making changes that don't reflect this vision that's being described. So, you know, the idea of getting that density dialed in and having different areas of the community zoned different ways, it's possible, but I think what they were looking for is this direction of the future map, excuse me, particularly for vacant areas. What do you want those vacant areas to look like? If it's low density, that gives them direction on what to do moving forward.
So we can give them a density, given every single area, we can provide a different density for every single area.
Within reason, you can't go property by property, but you could have different densities in different general areas that you could define. It would be different zoning districts. But I think that's where this future land use map comes in, where having an idea of at least of the range of what the board is thinking, you know, as the leaders of the community, that gives them direction of what to work on.
Right. And just keep in mind, one neighborhood having complaints, you're always going to have that.
But I just don't know what other people
you
think.
do have good examples of Tory Lane and Hawk Nest, is that what it's called? Hawk Ridge, of where you have variety, right? And so that is what, keep that in mind, that your community would like to have housing variety.
Pam, do the numbers in these bar charts represent the dots that were on the big boards?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think I'll jump in now with kind of what my thoughts are about it. And I think the thing that's kind of nice about looking at the future land use map is we've got 4 designated areas that we looked at that we would, I would say, consider for future growth. It's not anything that we're necessarily locking in. I think taking the community's input is to saying, you know, like, we want to kind of really manage it. You know, looking at 1 through 4, I think I share, Frank, some of your concern about the track between, I always want to call it Willowbrook, but it's Fairfield and Hess. That would be developed in a heartbeat. I run down there all the time. I drive through there all the time. It's prime area, and I think also, like, if we're looking specifically at water recharge and what the community has said, you know, they're looking to really kind of manage the growth. If we have the growth capacity within the regional growth boundary as it exists, I don't know that we should be running and jumping and opening up our borders, because I think that's kind of counter to what we had heard from the public. You know, I do think, you know, the Shingletown cleanup is probably, you know, something we should look at. But again, like, my big takeaway from this is we do have areas like, you know, should things change and we know that moving forward we want to grow, we've now gone through this process and we've identified some areas where growth is possible. But, you know, knowing that they're there isn't necessarily, you know, we don't have to make that decision to grow there. It's nice to have the information, but I think, you know, moving slowly with it, especially with regards to the growth boundary in the sewer service area.
Interesting issue, I think it's affecting all of us, is the high-rise building in State College.
Mm-hmm.
People that they want to live downtown, close to downtown, go up 12 floors, don't come out this way.
We are a very different community than,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, where they're building high rises.
When we talk about, let us go back to the housing thing, housing variety. We talk about housing variety in neighborhoods. It's been in the past, they have made homogeneous neighborhoods, okay? And the reason why they've done that is the housing value. Are there statistics and anything that's changed? I wouldn't know, that's what I'm asking. Are the statistics and things that are changing about non-homogeneous neighborhoods and the changes in housing value, the price per square foot of different size houses in non-homogeneous neighborhoods and stuff like that?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I
I'm
don't know.
just
It's kind of
wondering-
talking to realtors.
Yeah.
We have them in our focus group, so we can certainly
Yeah.
try to
And-
get a little bit of a. I see what you're saying on. Are there, if they're non-homogeneous, do they eventually have greater value
Or lesser value?
or less? Right.
That's
What is
because-
it better or worse?
And do people understand this when they're saying they want greater variety in neighborhoods?
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily within one neighborhood, but within Harristown. Like, you have to think about, you don't want only just single-family homes. So you should be thinking about, and again, you have a variety right now, and they want to make sure that you're not just focused on single-family homes, I'd say,
Fair
or
enough.
big single-family homes.
And not
Small.
smaller homes.
Right, small lots, big lots, they variety.
Yes, I have one more comment to make. Now we have our expert here. We already heard testimony tonight about traffic. And our infrastructure, can our infrastructure handle doubling our growth boundary or again by 30-40%? That's what we're going to have to look at. We've got the expert here, and I'm sure he can contest it could be a problem. But we're looking at traffic along with more housing.
And some of those tight neighborhoods off Academy,
Yep.
double the traffic. Good luck.
Yeah, I'll just say, I don't think at this point any of your growth areas are looking to double the growth up there. I just want to make sure that's clear for the community that might be watching that. That is not a, right.
Almost at capacity now.
Yeah, and again, we collectively in the planning world should be looking at land use and transportation and coordinated action. So I hear you and agree.
I'm not looking at expanding, but I'm looking at all these little things we're talking about as just like little bumps we're gonna clean up.
Right, but
We're
what
not gonna-
I've
we're not
heard
gonna
tonight,
Do this,
Right.
we're just gonna,
yeah, what I've heard tonight is we are not needing to look at those growth areas. We'll keep them in the bank, if you want to say, and maybe at the next round of future comprehensive plan and future land use map, we'll pull them out again, and we'll have some statistics and be able to look at the data again to see where we landed with our projections and what the new projections are, right? So I think that is helpful information, but what I'm hearing tonight is we are not expanding the regional growth boundary. We're going to do some cleanup, and then we'll work with the PC on the density within to be able to give you some different scenarios. They might come back with some policy questions where you can say, nope, they can look to see where there could be some potential greater density or keeping it the single family home, low residential.
Good luck, ma'am.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a work in process. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Fees for solicitor, peddlers, transient retail business, and mobile food vendor licenses. Mark?
Yes, at last month's meeting, the Board of Supervisors reviewed 3 draft ordinances that would separately provide license requirements for solicitors and peddlers, transit retail businesses, and mobile food vendors. So staff is working on some final amendments to those drafts once we get feedback from the township solicitor. I will note that I did talk to them today about some of your questions regarding farmers and also collecting information about minors. And I will include those in your next draft. More or less, the minor issue is not an issue, but we can easily change it to just say adult employees or volunteers that are associated and simply take care of it. But they said there was no harm with us having the minor's name if we aren't asking for their ages, and we're not. So that's something the board can always decide on. And then the farmer issue is a little more complex, so I need to figure out how I'm going to address that in the ordinance, but I will get back to you on that.
What is the farmer issue?
Where by state law, we cannot require a farmer selling their own produce that they either grew or produced on their farm from being licensed as a transient merchant of any type. So if someone were to come in and sell, I guess go door to door and sell vegetation that they grew, or is at a farmer's market or setting up a stand and it is something that they grew entirely and that's all they're selling, we cannot require them to get a license. That's something that the second-class township code specifically exempts. So that was the issue that I don't believe we can, from what the solicitor said, because the way the law is written and the purpose of the ordinance is to license, the regulations related to the license can't be applied to them because they are a exempt category.
So then you go right back to the whole thing of like, if the township deems it necessary to protect the citizens of this, then why are we allowing certain?
Because the state says we have to. That's the problem.
So then why do we worry about anything coming to the township?
Well, that's a policy question for the board. I would say that the number of farmers selling only their own produce, I imagine, will be extremely low in terms of people that are getting licensed. But it's something that the state says, look, you can have regulations for these and track, who's coming in and selling things in your community, except farmers. And that's just how the state law is written. So that's up to you as a board if you decide Well, if we're not gonna track farmer information, we're not gonna track anybody, but that's up to you all. On what you
Todd, have any thoughts and input on this? If most of this falls in your shoulders?
Yeah, the one thing I can add is that a couple months ago, I got, I was contacted by someone who asked if she was selling only things that she produced on her farm, if she had to be licensed. And did some research, and we decided that she did not, so long as she only sold the things that she produced, because she also sells other things. And she indicated in writing that she would only sell the things that she produces. So for the events that she wants to go to this year, we had to produce a sort of an exemption, a license exemption that she would have to keep with her or display, so that if someone asks, she can show that she inquired and the township took a position.
Did you do any comparison with respect to these fee amounts in other municipalities, or is this reflect Center Region costs at all, or what?
We actually used our existing fees and dialed them back a bit to make them match, I think, a little more what the new license structure is. So yeah, what we worked on over the last month was this fee structure, and as we have 3 different categories, we have 3 different fee structures. But the solicitor peddler, these are the folks going door to door, monthly fee of $25 to have a license, and it would be a calendar month. So if you want to come in the month of August, it's your license is for the month of August. It makes it easier on staff to administer too. We're not dealing with August 15th to September 15th. It's just the month of August. And you want to come back in September, you're seeing Todd again. So that's one option for the solicitor peddler. Transient retail business, there's 2. There's the regular, if someone wants to come in and they're setting up a stand somewhere and they think they're going to be here regularly, they're not associated with an event, or maybe they are, but they want to also be an off-site, they can get an annual license for $50. Now, if they're part of an event, so they're coming to Memorial Day, they're coming to a farmer's market, the organizer of that event can apply if they choose to. It's a choice, but they can apply to have a license where it's $10 per vendor, not to exceed $300. But if someone has an annual, we're not going to make them pay that $10 for them. So if they, somebody already has been set up here and they're also going to come to an event, they don't have to pay the $10 for that particular vendor. And we capped it at $300, just recognizing that if it's a very, very large event, that could get pretty costly. And I think from an efficiency point of view, if it's all being submitted at once, it will make it easier for staff. And then finally, the mobile food vendor would also be an annual license, $100. So this is your food truck, ice cream trucks. Same thing, if they're going to be setting up at an event, they could be part of that event license as well. So what we're looking for tonight is your input on this proposed fee schedule. Once we have that, we're going to finalize these draft regulations and the fee schedule and bring them back to you, hopefully, at your June agenda.
Start on the side. Nigel? How you feel?
It looks reasonable to me.
Did you want to ask for public comment?
One more thing I don't have to worry about.
Our public left.
One thing I don't have to worry about.
Tracy?
I don't know why the solicitor peddler is, I would make it larger personally, but I'm fine with this. And I talked to a couple people also who seem to think that it's pretty reasonable.
Okay.
I think we spent enough time, money, and effort on this. Let's get it
Okay.
done.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, good work.
Good job. Proceed.
Sounds good. We'll do that.
Okay, review of COG fund balance policy, the purple document.
The COG Executive Committee recently forwarded this document to you for your review. They wanted comments by last week, but they didn't give us enough time to put it on an agenda, so I will get them comments tomorrow morning. I know they're meeting on Thursday, I believe, but yeah. If there's any comments that you have, I will forward them along.
Is there a typo on the front page?
There may.
There are a couple typos through the whole
Okay.
thing.
I kept reading that, which is internal. I kept thinking, something missed in there, isn't it?
Hey, Kimberly was pretty swamped on this. Give her a
Okay, I just, it's a big document. You've been working on it, Frank.
Well, where I'm coming from with it,
Bye, Todd.
I'm not totally happy with everything in it, but I'm happy enough that we need to put it out there. because and even all the members of the finance committee, we think probably after it gets out there for a year and gets used, we're gonna be revising it, or we're gonna be making some changes. And the way it's set up, we can do that. The big difference that you're gonna see in it when it comes to the fund balance policy is the difference between enterprise agencies and those that are not. Because with the enterprise agencies, we have a hard time how we get money, if their fund balance gets too high, how do we get it down? And that's gonna be an issue no matter how we do it. But the rest of them, I think we've got it pretty well down. The only other thing we have to make on this decision is whether we go with 30, 45, 60, 90 day is the way we set it up. Right now, the finance committee is leaning towards the 30 day. Start with that and see where it ends up and go that. And there's some numbers in there that we've looked at, that how much it's gonna cost us to get it, to make sure it's funded. But I will tell you this, from the couple of years I've been on the finance committee, every year they tell us we spent the fund balance, and you come to the end of the year and it grew. So I'm not sure how it's going to be as painful to get it into the system. It's just we have to pay a little more attention, and I think it'll do the same thing eventually that ours does for us here when we do our budget.
Bud, you have some questions on this?
Yes, I do. That's one of the reasons I.
Okay, you only get 5 minutes.
Stay there, Bud. That's okay.
Thank
Stay
you.
there.
Thank you.
No, they might need him on.
Wait, you got one more time.
Just take the mic over to the chair.
No, this is fine. This is fine. I won't drag meetings longer than we have to. Though I'd love to see you guys suffer through a long meeting.
You're the sole resident here, so.
I'd like to see you suffer through a long meeting for that. Well, the only thing is, a little bit of background. The COG is almost 60 years old, and maybe just a little bit of hint, maybe time to look at. It may have morphed into more than what it was meant to be. Maybe there's the time to take a serious look at the overall picture of COG, what it started out as, what it is now, and we should look at it. It's growing exponentially. We're a little careful about that. One thing we had discussion with Frank about this fundraising. I was on that finance committee for 30 years, 25 years, something like that. And there's a statement in here that in 2007, 10, 11, and 14, we looked at this, we saw no need for a fund balance. What bothers me is it says revenues are, it's programs when revenues are low, expenditures are high. There should be no lows in revenues. We pay them every year what they request. We should sit down with them as a committee and come out, what is their budget for that year? It should be a zero-sum game. Why do they need a fund balance? Why do they need to hold our money or taxpayers' money? They don't need it. They submit a budget. They may not spend all that budget for that year. They may have to carry some over, but they have to budget for, it's the first quarter of the year. We have to wait till the first quarter of the year before we send them money. So that's the only time they really may need money, is the first quarter of the year, because we start sending it for them after the first quarter. So I'm not sure why they want a fund balance. It bothers me, and there are a couple of statements they've also had on there. It says, authorizing use of fund balance by the COG. So if they have a fund balance, are we going to authorize them to use that without coming back to us and say, this is not in your budget, this isn't your budget? It's a very scary situation, and I would be very, very leery of creating, so yes, you can have a 6-month fund balance or a 3-year fund balance, they don't need it. They should sit down. If the finance committee does its job, they sit down every month, all the agencies, say, what do you need for this following year? What is your funding? What is your thing for your capital expenditures, for your overall, and we give that to them. Now, if they don't spend it all, then you have to decide whether they want to carry that over the next year they need it or not. But fund balance, it should not be in COG. Now, we have fund balances here for various reasons, but I get scared when you say COG fund balance. Look at the good example is the code. What do they have now? Who knows what we don't even know what they have. $10 million holding? $10 million? I don't know. Who's on the code committee anymore? Yeah. Don't know. So we have to build how much are they holding in reserves? No, I'm not. Well, anyhow, that's an example. So I just a little concerned about fund balances when you do that. So something to look at when you talk to them. it's been discussed from the very start. Every year we do the same thing. But basically, the finance committee sit down with each agency. There's 26 different tabs on there. Go through every one of those. Say what do you need to operate for the year, and what do you need to put aside for capital expenses, and that should be it. They should not hold any of our money, and have it at their expense to use it if they need it. They have to come back to us. So that's basically the speech I'm giving on that thing. And Frank, I know you're going to get some pushback on that if you present that, but we have to look at it. And I think it's time to look at code overall. Yes, look at the COG overall. It morphed as everybody got together. We spend our money on libraries. We do that, but it's morphed into something else. We've got programs on there in COG now that. Oh, here we go. The Climate Action Committee. How is that saving us money by going together to Climate Action Committee? That's what COGS are for. So there you go. Frank, whoever is in charge of this, look at it.
One thing I will comment with Bud is the one part that I kind of totally agree with, and I brought this up at the Finance Committee more than once, and the COG is not a funding source for the center region. You know, we get requests all the time from Benner and Bellefonte and all these places that we should give money from our township to their road things and road programs and road studies because they don't want to raise taxes. I think that for what Bud's saying, we have to remind COG that it is not a fund, and we are not the government of the center region. COG is not the government of the center region. They can't put out an ordinance. They can't do a resolution. They can't do zoning. All they can do is be a coordinating group. And I agree with Bud on that. That does need addressed. Whether we address it in our committees or how we address it. But COG does need to be pulled back.
I think the Finance Committee needs to sit down and work out a budget with each fund packet. There are 26 of them. And say, this is what you need for the year, operating money for the year. You need to put so much aside for capital expenses. They don't need a fund balance that they can look at. Well, we have a fund balance, we can go ahead and get this. That's not what they're designed to do.
No, that is not what this does. We will not authorize them to buy things.
Well, according to this, a little bit of this, it scares me.
And they still work within their budget. All that they're saying is that the bigger problem, it wasn't the lower problem. We have agencies that were carrying large fund balances. And if you look, there's a way, every one of those groups, how you reduce their fund balance. That is in there. And that would be, again, next year, if you have too high of a fund balance and you want X amount of dollars, you get X amount minus whatever over your fund balance. So there's things in there for that. That was one of the big reasons.
I guess I'm defining fund balance different than you are.
Well, no, there's if you look at there's definitions, there's fund balances that are already like something's allocated. Like when we built the park, we had funds in there, and that showed a big high fund balance, but all that was already committed to build out of the park.
That's a carryover expense, yeah. Yes. That's
no,
not a fund balance.
They're now called restricted funds or allocated funds, depending on what they're called.
But we're talking about fund balances.
Right. Fund balance is what's left over, is what you're talking about.
Why do they need it?
There's not a whole lot left over on that stuff.
Well, I don't care. I'm just saying, be careful.
Mark, you're getting an idea of,
I'm not getting much in terms of consensus comments that it sounds like you want to send to the COG to consider.
well,
I have some things.
Go ahead.
After I wrote all over this, I didn't get through the whole thing because I had graduation. First I want to start out with something that really was appalling to me, as far as government is concerned, okay, coming from the business standpoint. I'll go right back to the electric cars and the charging stations and what happened there. We got very little money for those $200,000 charging stations that we had to put in, okay? And the thing that bothered me is they got these grants for these cars and they budgeted a certain amount of money for these cars. They got some grant money, and the cars they budgeted to they were under budget. That money is not meant to be spent in willy-nilly in anything you decide. It's supposed to go back into the pot. but it didn't. It got spent on the charging stations. And I don't understand how it can be done like that. I don't understand when you think that if you're under budget, you can take that money and do whatever you want with it. I was absolutely appalled. So that's like, these are things I don't understand in government at all. Who does that? You know, that bothered me a lot. Okay, so I'm reading through this. And the first thing I got to was the one sentence.
Where are you, Tricia?
I'm on, oh gosh, where am I?
Page numbers, bottom page number.
Oh, 11. There it is. I couldn't find it. Page 11.
Okay.
Cog building capital. When it says funding requirements are informed, who is informed? The funding requirements are informed? No, they're not informed. That needs to whole change. It's a run-on sentence that says absolutely nothing, and we no longer have a facilities committee. So that needs to be changed. I'm sorry, but that's something that, no. It's an all run-on sentence, and I just couldn't believe that when I read it. Second of all, when it says transition of ownership, which is down to risk to funding, transition of ownership. The COG building was constructed in 2003, at which time the member municipalities jointly funded development and charged the 5 resident agencies rent. And in 2028, the COG assumes full ownership of the building, will be responsible for capital assets replacement and major repairs. I didn't know that they weren't responsible for capital asset replacement and repairs. So, but that's a thing that goes to funding. You know, when you say things like this, it goes to funding as well. And if you're not being transparent when you say something like this, then it seems to me that this is not a proper document. Yeah, my problem is not the fund balances per se. My problem is with people spending or coming up with problems in order to spend these fund balances. If it's there, it's going to be spent, or I'm worried it's going to be spent in different ways that we did not provide for. As far as the code, I don't understand why we aren't given a complete breakdown of how this money is being received and spent. All we get is like these willy-nilly excuses about how these projects are outstanding. Well, we should be able to have a map of what they're using this money for and why they have so much money. They should have to show us, because isn't it in their bylaws that they're not supposed to be holding, an incredible amount of money? So why are we not taking them to task and saying you have to provide us with these facts? There's no reason. There's a lot of this going through, especially in rec and parks. Do we not ask for different information coming from that area? Hold on, I'm getting there. Here we go. We had asked for this a long time ago, and it seems to me it is responsibility of Parks and Rec to give us the information of how much these programs are costing versus, what are we covering? Swimming, yes, I totally agree that we should be funding this if we need to. But there are other things that we don't even see the statistics on. They make these comments about concessions, and we don't know what's happening with concessions. If you buy hot dogs and you sell them, and you buy 10 hot dogs and you pay $10 and you sell them for $10 and you make nothing, and then they say this covers our staffing, it covers the propane and other equipment, how do I know that? Have you actually looked into that? Or am I subsidizing little Johnny's hot dog? Is Township money subsidizing Johnny's hot dog? There's nothing that shows me that it's not. And I think that the townships deserve that. We deserve to understand where this money is going. And if it's going to the wrong place, we deserve to have... Yeah, thank you. I want to know where this money's coming from and going. And then they say different things like restricted funds. Where is it? Excess or surplus revenues are classified as assigned to support, in page 37, assigned to support operations that may have a shortfall during the year, as much of parks' revenue sources are seasonal. I didn't even understand that. are is a program that, is it?
Page you on.
37. The classification utilization, it talks about like the excess or surplus. Oh, I can't remember now. I mean, there's a lot in here that comes down to we don't have any idea of the funding and what's coming back in for the programs. And I think we have a right to know where the money's going because there's so much money that goes into Parks and Recreation. And we have really a better right to know. And that's everything. That's everything.
Can you summarize that?
Took notes.
You can summarize. I mean, I guess that's
First
my
off-
problem. We don't have any breakdown of anything. We don't have breakdown from code. We don't have breakdown from Parks and Rec. You know, these things are very important when it comes to making decisions about what we should be doing and how we should be growing and that umbrella that Bud talked about. We don't have the information to make decisions.
Greater detail issue?
Yeah, absolutely. Across the board. It is annoying.
So, just for clarity, as I write this, is that a comment on the policy, or is that a comment on how COG operates generally when it comes to finance that you feel?
This is a problem with fund balances. This is a problem within saying where the money's going. It's like when it says concessions, they cover their costs. How do I know that? You can't just tell me you're covering your costs without showing me.
Okay, can I say something on this? Sure. On all this? Okay. Again, how many, 2 years now, how long you've been going to, on finance committee? And we come down to budget every year, and they bring and they say, we want X, Y, and Z. And you go, okay, why do we need X? Safety committee said it was okay to do. You know, oh, Park and Rec committee said that's okay to do. Oh, you know, TLU, that's what they, or not TLU, what is it? Lucy. Lucy approved it. And we're like, okay, well, you know, we're just the finance committee. It's already been through the process. So where your answer is when you're sitting in a committee and they say, we're going to buy cars. You say, why? That's where you ask the question. And and when we come back here and you talk to all of us and you say, I don't think we should buy cars and here's why, then all of us vote in that direction. We have to come back and we have to work as a group. And I will tell you right now, everything that I've heard here tonight was hashed out over months. You know, and I will tell you right now, in my opinion, the two that you addressed tonight are our worst situations. Code is, nobody knows. And as soon as you bring it up to the other municipalities, well, it's not costing us anything because they're an enterprise fund. That's what you hear every time. But that doesn't keep them from doing whatever they want to do. When it comes to Park and Rec, read this next thing we're going to talk about, because that's going to be my comment. You go through and everybody's got the authority to say what they want. Everybody, we're going to make the decision. When you look and it says, what is the primary goal of the municipal partners? What's the first line it says? To provide the funding. We don't get to say anything, but we got to provide the funding. And that's where, that goes back to Bud's point about what we've got to do to get this back under control.
How do you know what funding you're supposed to provide
We don't,
unless
but
it's
that's
presented to you? Like, you don't know, I don't know, he doesn't
Tracy,
know, nobody knows.
It's because I'm telling you that's what's wrong. I'm not sitting there defending it. I'm saying it's wrong because they make all the decisions and they bring them to us and we're supposed to fund them. That's where we've got to put our foot down.
But I guess the biggest problem I have is that maybe they need that money. Maybe they don't. But I think that I have the right, and the public has a right to know what their money is being spent on. I just don't. It's just this cloud that it goes into. I just want to know, and I want the public to know and understand, or have the ability to know and understand, if they so choose.
If they so choose.
It doesn't. Well, but it doesn't matter. But the thing is, you know, maybe they do. I just think it's this information that they have a right to know. I have a right to know.
I think the clearest expenditure item is fire capital with respect to buying equipment. We know what it's going to cost.
But I'm glad we don't have Alpha Fire Company because you can ask them. They have an open checkbook. They can buy whatever they want. And that to me is unacceptable. You know, but that's beside the point. I don't get to, I have to say, I don't want to say in that.
Bottom line, do you want a fund balance or you don't want a fund balance? balance.
I really don't want to, I understand where you're coming from. I also understand the ease of having a small fund balance just in case there are extra expenditures. For example, even $1 over, I think that having $1 over something is worth spending, but.
Well, I will tell you what happens without a fund balance. It was a couple years we had with our last director. And spending went through the roof. We all know that.
Frank, that was not a product of not having a fund balance. That was a product of having whoever was in charge of the pocketbook not
Right,
being careful.
and not having any written down of
Yes.
what he can and can't do.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
And
This is the start.
In the middle, that finance committee in September, October, they present to us, this is what we want to spend this year. We need to spend on personnel, overhead, new equipment, or not new equipment, to operate our facility. Here's what we need to purchase future equipment. Two different things. That what they need every year should be very, very cut and dry. They budget it, that's all they're spending. They don't need to have a fund balance to rely on because there's no less loss of funds. It's always there. It's there. We give it to them. So
you're saying we need a fund balance? No, you guys are saying you want a fund balance, but that balance is zero.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's the comment.
Now, if there is carryover, they didn't spend something. If they didn't spend something, it's carryover. You can discuss that.
All fund balances must be zero at the end of the year.
That should be a zero. Right now that should be a zero, whatever the way you want to call it, whatever the accountants call that. It's at the end of the year. It should end up zero. If there's money left out, that means you couldn't spend it. You want to hold it till next year because you can still spend it or start over again. Giving someone a fund balance is like giving them a cash to the cashier. Give them the key to the cash drawer.
So you're okay with the fund balance, you just don't like what they're starting with the
I'm not okay.
quantities.
No, not
There's no quantities in here, by the way. You didn't
Yeah,
do
I know.
that.
Well,
We want a zero fund balance.
Once this
in an ideal world, a zero.
But once this happens, then we decide what the balances are.
Well, that's what.
Zero,
that's what,
30 days, 60 days,
That's
whatever.
what committees are for.
Yeah.
You have a finance committee. They would come to you. I'm coming to you as a what would it be? The library. I'm coming to you as a library. This is what's going to cost me to operate this library for this year, and then you justify it down to line items. Okay, you need this $1,000, this many $1,000 to finance you. We're going to give that to you. How much do you need to purchase equipment? That's capital. At the end of the year, that's all they get. Now, if they don't spend it all because they couldn't buy the furniture this year, maybe you want to carry some of that over. But there should be no balance to them say, well, in case you don't give us any money, we have a balance over here we can use. That's wrong. That's why fund balances are not a good idea in their situation.
I think we should have beat this one enough, so you got some, I thought.
You got more to go yet.
My comments on this is,
Chris has something.
taking what Frank said into account where the issue is that there are fund balances, the fund balances are too high, and this is a mechanism to rein them in. This is a mechanism to have it on paper, what to do when a fund balance exists. I think this satisfies that goal. I can see a fund balance being necessary in case of emergency, kind of to echo what Tracy said. Again, I'm not saying.
Not
I think that's
8.3%.
all. I think it's all worked out really well in here. I think you guys did a good job. I would agree that the fund balance is not to be something that's relied on. I think this is a good mechanism of outlining something where there was a problem before because nothing was written down. So I think this is a really good start to solving the problem.
Add that to his comments.
I will write up
Just more information.
Nice little comment.
Oh,
You all said just about everything.
Nigel already had comments. They were
Well,
45 minutes
the
ago.
other thing, I don't really worry too much about the finance thing because that's why we have committee members for each committee. And, Bud was very competent in finance, and Frank's proven so as well. And I trust how they're looking at things. And, yeah, sure, things come back to us, but I'm not going to look into every single little detail and stress over it.
a lot of detail in there.
Yeah.
Okay, proceed.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Good luck.
Parks Intergovernmental Agreement Final Draft. Mark?
Yeah, so this document was sent back to the board, to the township for any further comment. If you recall, you did look at this earlier this year and provided feedback. They are asking that any feedback on this latest version be provided by this Thursday to facilitate incorporation on the executive committee agenda. So the board provided, as I mentioned, feedback before, and I think some of the things that you commented on or our solicitor commented on was incorporated. What I did was I provided a sheet here to summarize what's changed, because they didn't give us kind of a strike and bold, so there was no indication of what had been modified. So that's what this 2-page memo I put together for you was. So hopefully that helps you. If you have any comments, I think that the changes are fairly minimal. And as I said, some were definitely related. I know there was a substantial change for the withdrawal procedure that was made as a result of our solicitor's comments. At least they may have had other comments from that too. So I'm just looking, if you have any comments you'd like me to send on this document, I'd be happy to do so.
None? Okay. Trish? None? Frank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep yours, it's gonna be quite, it's gonna be thin and quick. Oh,
Chris, you have any?
okay.
I think, you know, the one thing that I would like to see
Okay.
spelled out a little more has to do with the MOU for maintenance. I think that's going to be something that really needs to be looked into on a kind of a park by park, and I think this really glosses over it. So I'd like to see more detail in that process.
I will say that the Parks Director reached out and has scheduled a meeting, I believe at the end of June, with all the municipal managers to start talking about MOUs.
Okay.
So that is something that is moving forward, but it's going to be a couple weeks
that's
out.
my only comment is I think there should be more detail around that, but it sounds like they're moving forward with it.
Okay. My only comments on this is, as a manager, I always love to have 3 or 4 bosses, because then I can play one off the other and I can do whatever I want and not be accountable to any one of them. And that's what I read here. I think that at some point, if we're gonna make the Park and Rec an authority, which they are, then they're either a full authority and let them do everything, and just divorce them from COG. And until we do that, this is just, it'll be just the same thing. And like with Tracy's comments about not getting the numbers, you know what I was told when I asked for them? Oh, we already did them. Well, where are they? I don't see them. We gave them to the Park Authority. Your representative should have got one. Well, if our guy did, he never got told or never said anything. So I just think that that's my comment. What's in here is fine, but I just think sooner or later they either need to get divorced or we need to fix it and clean it up one way or the other. They have too many.
Multiple level of management in this thing,
Yeah.
with
Yes,
respect
sir.
to 3 agencies, is so confusing.
Yep.
And I've advocated for years that we need an authority, a separate operating authority. Even though you're part of PMAA, Pennsylvania Municipal Authority Association, the design of it is so much different than operating authorities. No, authorities don't have 3 managers. There's three oversight agencies. That's what's confusing about this thing. So.
Yeah, I have a question on this. This is unclear to me. It starts out that the municipalities, of course, fund it, but who is in charge? Is it the agency or the authority?
Bingo.
There's different scenarios in
That's
here.
right. And so COG in there's another one.
Well, the COG is the agency, and the authority is the authority. But one of them doesn't say clear which one can authorize
Right.
or submit. The agency, which is COG, handles all the construction. There's the authority. They don't have the money to do anything. But how are they incorporating this thing? The good example right now is the 3 regional parks, and we're on stage. We've not even completed stage 1. Hessfield has stage 1 to be completed. We're getting ready to go into stage 2 and then stage 3. And I'm not sure they even know where to stand on this. Hessfield hasn't even done stage 1. White Hill Park is stage 1. Oak Hill Park is stage 1, and they may be starting on stage 2 at Oak Hill Park. But it's unclear who is in charge of this. And I think that needs to be spelled out.
Yeah.
Because we don't even know. You talk to somebody and say, well, what about Hessfield this? So it needs to be spelled out.
One thing I did have a comment I forgot, and I wanted to put it in here. that I think needs to be incorporated in this. Anytime they do a capital expenditure or a capital program, they hire a job manager, just like we did out here.
That's in here.
No, it doesn't say, it says an
It's,
agency director runs it.
Oh, well, the agency is in charge of construction management.
Yes, and I don't want that. I want something there that says that COG or somebody hires a construction manager, that they run it.
Like we did.
Like we did. Then it won't go 5 and 6 years and get overrun by twice.
Well, look under on page 8 under F. Agency director shall lead project execute, including documenting and contract administration with support from the COG, facilities manager, and project coordinator.
Yep.
Is that not what you want?
Nope, I want it to say that the project coordinator will do it. We hire a project coordinator and they do it. The agency director has way too much to do. It just gets kicked down the can.
And it says the authority shall provide advisory.
And yes, they are not coordinated, they're not trained at it.
And then beyond it says the agency shall provide advisory coordinator. Okay.
You have,
Do?
yeah, okay.
Yes.
If you need clarification, pass it around as a draft and we'll get back to it.
Yeah, I don't understand why there's so many.
Agencies? That's good luck.
Shouldn't you just one?
Too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
That's
It
one.
just be one. What is the problem with just having one?
That's why I said, they make them if they're authority, make them an authority.
But if they're
Then they can come
authority,
asking for money, we can give them what we want. We don't have to look at their budget. Say, here, we're giving you X amount of dollars, and they take care of it from there.
yeah, but they're going to come for more.
No, we
Let's,
don't give them more.
Let's buy a street sweeper, Mark.
Okay. Well,
Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
so yeah, we're looking to buy one, as is noted here in the agenda, 2009 sweeper from College Township for $12,000. And as it was noted, the maintenance crew looked at it. They're very excited about it. And this will be a good purchase for our crew to be able to do more work with what we can currently do by far. I mean, definitely a lot of
It's a
improvements.
6-figure machine, so for 12,000, we're doing pretty good.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'd like to move to approve the purchase of the 2009 Johnston street sweeper from College Township for $12,000 with the funds to be taken from the capital equipment fund.
I'll second that.
Nigel?
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Very cute, very cute.
Entering into new electricity supplier contract.
So our current electricity contract is going to expire in June, and I reached out to the Municipal Utility Alliance, which is part of the PML, Pennsylvania Municipal League, and this group utilizes cooperative purchasing to reduce the impact of increases on the cost of electricity. We currently purchase electricity with 100% renewable energy credits from Direct Energy at the cost of about 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So the MUA gave us rates that range anywhere from 12 months to 66 months, both with and without RECs. The 18-month term by far is the lowest price, but if the board is interested in locking in a much longer term price that kind of guarantees budget stability, we can go up as high as 66 months for about an extra $50 per month. Now, obviously, that costs us more on the beginning, but if there's one thing we've seen, at least with electricity prices, they tend to continue to go up. Right now, looking at, I went and just did some basic pricing for electricity not using this, and it was 12 cents a kilowatt hour, I think.
13 cents mostly.
Yeah, so
I'm from a business, so.
Right.
What term
13 cents.
contract are we ending now? We're on a 5-year contract now?
No, the one we're on right now is only 14 months. We
Oh,
jumped
okay.
into this one with Direct Energy because it was who the PPA supplier was
okay.
going to be. So we had done that in anticipation of the PPA happening. Now that's not happening. This is our other option. So what I'm looking for tonight is just some direction from the board. Ultimately, I need to get back in touch with the MUA if that's the route you want us to go. But if you're comfortable with going with a longer term contract to lock in that price, and you want me to stick with RECs, it's not that much more to go with renewable energy credits. I'm just looking for that direction.
Would you like a motion or just discussion?
Well, motion's fine, but nonetheless, I just need to have some direction that's at least consensus of the
Well,
group.
one thing, guys, on this thing from PML, when we had our regional meeting, they were showing us some of the things we had. What they do for this is they do all the bidding. PML does all the bidding, so we don't have to go do, get 3 bids and all that. It's already done through. And as members, we are allowed to use this thing as being a member of PML. So that saves Mark time from having to go around doing a lot of bidding on it. So
What's the most common preference in terms of length? Did they give you an idea, 5-year or 3-year? Or?
They said that for the most part, they didn't give 5 or 3 years. They just said that's one of the benefits of their program. So it tends to be much longer than just a year or 18 months. They typically find that municipalities want to lock in that sort of stability
Anybody like to
and
do a
certainty.
motion?
I don't know if we'll go motion yet, but I think we should discuss what term we're looking for, because there are quite a few options. I think the one major question I had, you answered, which was how does this compare to what else we could find on the market? And it sounds like this is superior by a fair amount.
It is superior
And I
by
think
a
if there's
lot.
like one thing I would bet money on, it's that electricity rates will be much higher 5 years from now than they are right now. Just from a demand standpoint, knowing that more capacity isn't coming online tomorrow, knowing that demand is going to be higher. I mean, I would eat my shoe if 5 years from now I'm paying less for electricity.
okay.
So
Somebody-
it's on the record now.
We got that on TV.
I'll give you a shoe.
I'm gonna make a shoe out of bread in 5 years from now.
We got that on recording.
No, I think I think this is a pretty solid deal. I think taking the effort out of looking for electricity for I'd say a longer term would be what I would be comfortable with.
Give me a choice, 60 or 66.
I mean, the 66 is a little bit shorter,
Yeah.
or sorry, a little bit less expensive.
Yeah.
Well, the 66, where that comes from is this current contract that PML has expires December 30.
So that's the other
31.
6.
So that's the 66 months.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's 66.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with going with a longer term. I think it just kind of takes it off the schedule, and the rate seems decent.
Satisfied with 60?
Unless people think there's
I'm
risk
fine-
in
I'm fine
going
with
with a longer
60.
contract.
Let's
So
go to 66.
I'd be interested in
Let's go to
hearing
the
what
end of
everybody
the-
else has to say.
End of the contract.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Nigel?
Yeah, 66. I mean, I'm trying to think of like, for $50 a month extra, we could lock in the 18-month rate. That's like, how does that, we need a lot more information to find out if that was cost effective in the long run. I'm guessing it wouldn't be, but, so I'd go for long 66.
Do we know how often these rates change? Is it just kind of like a
These rates change daily.
daily? Okay, that was
Yeah, it may not be this price when I have it quoted to actually enter into the contract, but
like, unless it's wildly different.
yeah, which I doubt it will be.
Yeah.
It tends to be pretty stable.
I don't know when the volatility of our country is going to end. I think that we'll be able to do things with electricity when the volatility in this country ends. But I would definitely go with at least 60 because I think it's going to take that long for the volatility of this country.
Right?
Oh, I'm good. 66 is fine with me.
Yeah, at least 60. I'm
fine
good
with
with
it.
66.
Sounds like we'll do 66. You want a motion on that?
Well, I'd like to know whether or not you want with or without renewable energy credits.
I think the difference to do it
doesn't-
with the renewable energy
Yeah, it doesn't
credits
make
is
a lot of
negligible, and I think
difference.
it's
Yeah,
I think it's what our residents would
I
want.
would agree with that.
I don't need, that's direction enough for me. I just want to make sure I was
I'm
clear.
going to circle that one.
Okay.
That's what I will ask them to go ahead
Yeah, I
and quote
circled
us
it.
and let them know that's what we want to do. So,
So just in a minute, just make sure that it's a consensus
Understood.
rather than a motion. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Let's get,
I move to approve Resolution 26-11, updating the township fee schedule.
Second.
I can't turn the page
I
fast
think
enough.
this will
here.
work.
You get it
We have a
done.
motion and a second to accept fee schedule, discussion. Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. No public comment, okay. Manager report, the bright yellow paper.
Yeah, so just something I'm gonna point out that's on here and then a few that are not. There's a Penn State class that did a project on Kaywood Park. That's their poster there behind you, so before you leave for the evening, if you want to take a look at it. This is their recommendation of what we can do for the additional land that was given to the township as part of the Kaywood North subdivision to try to create sort of an open space area that'll be beneficial to the wildlife, but not have to have a lot of programming. We already have a big park out there. So it was just an idea that they worked on for us. We're hoping to maybe get some other students to help design how it could look. And the Parks Committee is working on trying to figure out what they want to do with that park long term, knowing that we also now have a walking connection to Rocky Ridge. So
How many acres is it? How big?
that's, I think, 3 acres,
Oh, okay.
3 or 4. Yeah, it's probably 4 acres thereabouts.
Sort of tucked in with the new houses going in down there.
Right. It basically abuts them, and we
Yeah,
planted a row
yeah.
of trees along
Okay.
the property line,
Okay.
but that's all we have in that field right now. So, a few other things I wanted to bring up. We have, I've been working on getting prices for the roof here for the township building. Been getting recommendations to go with a standing seam metal roof rather than the kind of the corrugated metal that we see pretty common in the community, just because of concerns about leaking and other things, and standing seam is what was recommended as a better long-term option that'll last 100 years. That's what we have on this part of the building.
We're doing 3 bids, you get 3 bids?
I'm gonna have to
Okay.
actually advertise it, because it's gonna be over the $23,000 limit, there's no
Okay.
question. So,
Okay, good.
I'm hoping to do that and have that to you here, hopefully in July.
And that's a better roof than just a standard roof too?
Then,
Standard.
it'll last longer than an asphalt
Okay.
roof. Yes, by probably about 50 years longer. They said asphalt shingles right now are like a 50-year warranty, but these metal roofs can last easily 100 years if they're taken care of. So.
Perfect.
We'll all be around to see this.
Yeah,
I will.
We're gonna have
I'm too
we're gonna
stubborn.
have a celebration out back.
I wanted to ask the board if you would be interested in holding another work session again in July, a lunchtime work session, talk about budget finance for the coming year. There's a couple other things on my plate here that I think I'd like to run past you, including upgrades to the facility.
Okay.
We did that in the past, so if you want, I'm going to shoot out some dates,
Okay.
see what works for everybody, and we can
Sounds
do it
good.
around lunch like we've done in the past.
Any day of the week good for anybody or not?
Wednesday's bad for me always.
Wednesdays are bad.
Wednesday and Friday, I'm sorry, Wednesday and Fridays are
Is
bad.
that
Just
golf?
send me
day?
dates.
No,
Golf and
Harrisburg
extra.
and Shuttle Van.
Okay.
I'll throw out some dates. This will just help me out with the budgeting process, but there's some other things like we need to get our website taken care of to be ADA compliant and just upgrade it in general. There's a bunch of new ADA rules that are going into effect.
Could we also talk about like better, what should we do more, like, how do I say that?
I don't know.
Means to, register events online instead of having to come and get a paper and
Yeah, I would certainly like
pay
if,
online.
if our website can be more user friendly and make it easier on staff and on the public at the same time. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Right now, our website has worked well for the many years we've had it, but there are limitations. So that's where I'm talking to a bunch of different companies. Deb did some research, and now I've been following up with them individually to find out a little more what they can do for us. So I think it's time to work on that. So I just wanted to bring some of those things back to you all in July and get your thoughts on it.
There's some nice municipal websites working now.
Right.
Ferguson College, I believe. Well
Sure.
done.
Sure. The other thing I'd mentioned, sort of brought up this evening, is this traffic calming idea. I know that we had 2 residents here tonight mention bringing it to next month or the following month. If the board's interested in doing that, I think it would be worthwhile having Rob, our traffic engineer, return to talk a little bit about changes that have happened in terms of state policy regarding these, state policy regarding these policies. They've sort of taken away some of the direction and guidance they've given, but that's both good and bad. It gives the board more flexibility to do what you want, but also no real guidance on what might be best for the community. And I think that's where a traffic engineer might be useful.
And you distributed the data that we got off our meters, didn't you?
I have, and I've continued to collect more. There was some comments about maybe the locations of some of these weren't in a good spot to collect the data, which it's no problem. We can move them. Like South Academy Street, for example, we posted it in front of the house of somebody who had requested speed humps, saying that it was too fast in front of their home. We're going to move it further down the hill to be hopefully in front of some other folks who are concerned. But yes, we've distributed to you what data we found, and for the most part, we're not seeing that 85th percentile speed. So 85% of traffic is not going more than 6 or 7 miles over the speed limit at best.
And we aren't fabricating data.
No.
Yeah. It's,
So
Can I ask, we talked about it, but I can't remember. The houses that are going in on West Main. Okay. There was something about, we talked about the sidewalk, and I mentioned to you, it would be really nice to have a sidewalk going down there, going all the way down West Main, and coming into, Bullsboro proper, whatever you want to call it. And you said that that is able to be done?
well, the development is putting a sidewalk along West Main. The remainder of West Main would be a capital project for the township. And that would be something we'd have to figure out and engineer, but that would be a discussion point for the board of, do you want to look at installing a sidewalk? What I'm currently working on is trying to take care of the sidewalks in the village that we know we have issues with.
Right.
But the next step after that was hopefully going to be having the board do a pedestrian type of an analysis where you wouldn't have to do the analysis. Let me restate that. We'd have the analysis done. Part of it's being done by the MPO right now with the Safe Streets for All study. But I think having you all look at and decide where you think it would make sense to have other facilities, and then we could look at trying to fund those and build them. But it could happen. It's just it would cost a lot of money, and we'd have to engineer it.
Because, I mean, if it comes down to speed humps or a sidewalk, I'd rather have a sidewalk all the way down.
Yeah, that's a discussion point, I think, for the board at some point. If you wanna consider any type of traffic calming or alternate facilities to assist with pedestrians, that's something you could certainly talk about.
Yeah, but I guess like on West Main in general, I would prefer to see a sidewalk all the way down than traffic calming that way than a
and
speed.
you probably got the other half that don't want sidewalks.
Well, that's the other problem. Like we talked about that too.
Or traffic calming.
We just need to put some signs up.
But that road isn't built for sidewalks.
Well, it would be quite the project. There is room if you like trim back and move, if you go into the right of.
Now put a sign up, speed monitored by aircraft. They aren't gonna know any difference. It's slow them down.
Smile you on camera, on the
Put
building.
cameras up.
I mean, but Academy.
Okay,
Academy's a
anything
little
else
bit different.
for Mark on the yellow sheet? Okay, thank you. Vouchers, let's spend a little bit of money here, okay? Anyone might like to make a
2
motion?
months in a row.
I'll move to approve the vouchers, totaling $2,120.33.
Okay, anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any questions about the excessive expenditures? Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Town committee reports,
Did I go to the executive committee last month?
Pardon?
Did I go to the executive committee last month?
yeah, you did.
Okay, we did what was on
Yeah.
what was on the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had a conflict in time.
Yeah, we did what was on the agenda.
Yeah.
You guys got it.
Land use, we talked more about the comprehensive plan and the same type material that Pam talked about, and spent a little bit of time talking about the Penn State ARL project.
Yeah.
Chris was there with that one too, so actually the discussion on the ARL one went better than I expected.
Yeah, I think they've identified a good piece of property. Again, my major concern with it is eliminating the bike path that gets used a ton. It's a major connector, and their alternative to pave the basically the fire road that's going down and around. It's an unacceptable substitute. You've got a flat, short commute in versus then going out through cow fields and dropping down all the way into the valley and having to ride up. But that's for the Lucy committee. So it's for discussion. It's for Lucy, and the college people seemed to be aware.
Were they amenable to perhaps looking at?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Finance? Mr.
Finance last
Brett?
month, we didn't do a lot. We had this out and we got it sent to the executive committee for the most part. That was the majority of what we did. We're gonna be talking about it this Thursday with what comments we get back. Some of the people aren't meeting until late next week.
Connector and MPO too, so.
MPO had, or excuse me, the connector was nothing. MPO, we had a bunch of stuff we did. We did we authorized the advertisement of the final 2027-2030 tip. And on the 25-28 tip, we did a bunch of revisions and moving some monies around to take care of some projects. That's the Chinese arithmetic part of that committee. We did some other studies and talked about comments. The one that was interesting to me was the Center County Passenger Rail Access Study. They talked about that. Well, here's the deal. Okay, we can get, instead of going to Tyrone, they think that it should go to Altoona because they have a better station. And instead of going to Lewistown, go to Harrisburg because they got a better station and more connections. I said, why would you add 120 miles of greenhouse gases to get to a train station when you got one that's 60 miles closer? You know, and I don't, I mean, that came from the train companies and everything, so I don't know where that's going, but that's what they're at. I think that's going to have some more work done to it.
We use the Lewistown one.
Yeah, a lot of people do. They just don't realize that.
I like the
Anyway.
Lewistown one.
Anyway, I'm done.
Okay. Tracy?
I've been remiss, and I'm terribly sorry. I will catch up now that I
On
now
both
that-
of those?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, I've been remiss. I will catch up, I promise that. I also have learned that during graduation, if I feel overwhelmed, I will definitely come to you.
It only comes once a year.
Thank God.
Okay, Chris? Yes,
So
yeah, Phil there.
for the Parks Authority, I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that we had gone over since it was almost a month ago has come and gone. But governance was working through the intergovernmental agreement with the Parks and Library bit. They're kind of trying to suss out the role of elected officials, the library board, what the oversight structure is going to be for that particular group. The SIGSI is being worked on right now. Let's see, Center Gives happened. The rec guide came out. The restrooms have been open. At the Active Adult Center, they are seeing a significant growth pattern. I think it's something, Frank, you had mentioned, coming through finance, where it really is creating a budget crunch. So they're looking at their 2027 projections.
That's why you have fund balances.
Yep, exactly. The pool at Welsh, the replastering is completed. It was completed on time and under budget. What they're going to look at next at Welsh is putting in a soft splash pad to kind of mimic what they had put in at Park Forest. What else? The concessions sales tax. They have not been collecting sales tax on concessions. They did not meet all of the conditions for exemptions. So they're looking at a possible shortfall of $20,000 to $30,000 in sales tax that was not paid. From this point on, they will be collecting sales tax. Millbrook.
That is not right. That should have never happened.
Well, that's a mistake was made, and they're going to move forward collecting sales tax. There is a Millbrook Marsh Boardwalk survey out. The closing date is May 22nd. So they're trying to get public input on what they'd like to see for the boardwalk, if they want to eliminate it, have it be the same, add to it. It's out for the public. And what else? They are saying that the SIGSI projects are going to be drastically cut, and they're prioritizing what they're going to put in it rather than throwing everything in it, which is kind of, you know, what we've been talking about here is, as the authority, be the authority, figure out what you need and just ask for that. So I think instead of a full-on wish list, it's going to be more of a what we are hoping to do in the next year, with maybe some things looking 2 years out. And that's Parks Authority.
Keep going.
Climate action and sustainability, the one thing that Denny didn't mention is I believe at general forum there will be discussion or a vote, maybe if we're lucky, but discussion around merging the two committees. I think we decided not to send climate action and sustainability and Lucy. So there was discussion around whether or not that should go out to the municipalities or if we should, in the interest of COG staff time, merge them. Having been to only the joint meetings, it seems like there's plenty of availability within the one committee to take on what needs to be taken on. And then as stuff pops up, ad hoc committees will be created on an as needed basis. And the idea behind that is they'll know prior to when we have our January organizational meeting where they will need an ad hoc committee. So it's not just a subcommittee out of Lucy. We can actually appoint on an as needed basis in a more agile way.
My comment on that, on climate action and sustainability, there isn't a decision or a thing that we do, whether it's here, COG, committees, wherever, that we don't all look at climate action and sustainability. So why do we need a committee to duplicate the work of what we're doing?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the discussion
And
around
I'd say
that,
put it in Lucy and just let it be part of Lucy.
and I think that's where it's going. I think the concern was they kind of siloed off and they don't really have any authority to work where they need to work, which is within Lucy.
Yeah.
So, looking at that being how they want to move forward with it. Spring Creek Watershed Commission meets next week.
Mr. Wilson?
Public safety, we met last month, the day after our township meeting, so it's we didn't really have a lot of discussion about much of anything. We did talk about the winter events at Beaver Stadium and problems again, but I think we're just beating that one. But we did have a presentation from a Penn State professor who ran a disaster preparedness workshop for students and residents and elected officials. I wasn't able to go because it was during the daytime, but so we had a report on that, and they're thinking about what they can do in the future to get people more informed and more prepared for disasters, because they're just going to happen more. We're talking natural disasters, usually weather related, where you lose your power for a while or things like that.
And if I'm correct, the Supervisor Convention is Tuesday night, together with the Penn State Municipal. Penn State?
Tomorrow night,
Tomorrow
5 o'clock, Benner Township Building.
You and I go in there.
Yeah.
The rest of you going to university?
Yeah.
Wait, say again?
He's going to prom. He told me he's going to prom.
You going to what, to the prom?
Yeah, that's what
That's at the university.
Oh, okay.
I moved to a
We call it the President's Ball in our household.
We call it the ball. It's the prom.
President's Ball.
He moved to adjourn, we're adjourned.
What is it? I didn't hear. I didn't hear what he said.